My sister dropped her kids off at my house and demanded that I babysit them while she went on an 8-week vacation. When I threatened to call the police, she arranged for someone to assault me in my own home just to take them back. Unlike real gold, kids raised as golden children rarely turn out as flawless as their parents imagine. Growing up, my sister always got her way, no matter how cruel or unreasonable she was. She was the miracle child. And my parents, especially my mother, treated her as if she could do no wrong. It didn't help that my sister was exceptionally beautiful. She had thick curly hair and light eyes, while I had straight dark hair and brown eyes. My mother constantly compared us, making comments about our looks and encouraging me to dress like my sister or ask her for makeup advice. But whenever I did, my sister mocked me and made me feel small. We grew up resenting each other. I think my sister absorbed all the worst traits of our mother: vanity, selfishness, and manipulation, while I tried my best to reject them. Being idolized for her looks made my sister arrogant and cruel, convinced she could do whatever she wanted without consequence. My mother's constant comparisons left me with deep insecurities. As an adult, I became quiet, reserved, and often described as a pushover. Lately, I've been going to therapy to build confidence and learn how to stand up for myself, though it's been challenging. My upbringing really damaged my ability to maintain healthy friendships or relationships. One of the worst moments came in high school when my sister slept with my boyfriend during senior year, just because she could. She didn't even like him. She'd called him unattractive before. When my parents found out, they told me to let it go and didn't even scold her. That's when I truly realized how little I mattered to them. My dad's silence throughout my life, just standing by while my mom emotionally tore me down, made me believe no man would ever defend or value me. It's still hard for me to trust anyone. But not everything was terrible. Being the ugly sister meant I had no social life and spent all my time studying. I graduated high school with a 4.0 GPA and earned a full scholarship to my dream university. It was especially satisfying because my mother had told me years earlier that she'd only pay for my sister's college since she was the eldest. I'd have to attend community college and pay my own way. I'll never forget how heartbroken I felt that night. I asked my mother why she didn't love me like she loved my sister, and she said she did, just that my sister deserved more because she was the firstborn. So when I got that scholarship, I was ecstatic. I couldn't wait to tell my parents, hoping for even a small moment of pride. My dad's only reaction was a quick, "Good job." My mom didn't even look up from her phone. She ignored me for an entire week afterward. When I tried to ask what I'd done wrong, she avoided eye contact and walked away. It felt like she hated me for achieving something on my own. That was the day I finally understood how unwanted I was. That night, I stayed up journaling until sunrise. I decided that if my family would never love me, I'd build a life that made me proud anyway. I would turn my pain into success, focus on my education and my independence. And I did. I graduated with honors, landed an incredible job at a company where I'd interned, and have been earning 6 figures since I turned 23. When I came home for holidays, my extended family would congratulate me on my achievements. My parents never did. I stopped telling my mom about promotions or raises since I knew it would only make her resentful. But one year, my dad said he was proud of me. That small comment meant more than anything I'd ever heard from him. Still, my mom treated me like an outsider. During one Christmas dinner, My uncle congratulated me on a promotion and mentioned I was looking to buy a house. Other relatives were kind and excited, but my mom cut the conversation short, saying, "This is boring. Can we talk about something else?" Then, under her breath, she muttered, "It's probably not even true." Later, when I actually bought my house and posted about it online, everyone in the family liked the post, except her. I knew she was bitter because my sister's life had fallen apart. My sister's college was fully paid for, but she failed out and got pregnant by her first college boyfriend. They tried to make it work by having another child, even though they were clearly incompatible. Holidays with them were always uncomfortable. Her boyfriend never remembered my name, and my sister constantly insulted me, even in front of her kids. I don't feel bad calling her a terrible person, because she is, and after what she did recently, I can't pretend otherwise. One Saturday morning, I was relaxing at home when my doorbell rang. To my surprise, my sister's kids, ages 10 and 7, were standing there with overnight bags. They told me their mom was going on an 8-week vacation and said I'd be watching them. I hadn't spoken to my sister since July 4th. When she told me not to get a second plate of food because she was tired of staring at my muffin top, I had no idea why she thought I'd agree to babysit for 2 months. The kids looked confused and nervous, so I let them inside while I called my sister. She ignored 10 calls before finally answering. I told her there was no way I'd watch her kids and that if she didn't come pick them up, I'd call Child Protective Services. That's when she threatened me. In a cold, deliberate tone, she said she'd call my job and tell them I wasn't taking my bipolar medication to get me fired. The accusation was completely false, but my career means everything to me, and she knew that. I hung up, overwhelmed and panicking. I had a trip planned to Australia in a few weeks to visit my long-distance boyfriend and meet his family. This chaos was destroying everything. When I called my mom for help, she immediately took my sister's side, insisting I owed her for everything she'd done for me. I lost it. I yelled at my mom, asking for one example of when my sister had ever been there for me. She had no answer. I demanded that my mom come stay at my house and watch the kids so I could still take my trip if needed. When she arrived, she was as cold as ever, scolding me for being a bad sister and claiming I wasn't being supportive. I asked what kind of vacation my sister was even on, leaving her children for 2 months. My mom hesitated, then admitted my sister was being flown out by her sugar daddy. I thought she was joking, but she wasn't. I lost control and told her she'd raised a failure who abandoned her kids for money. My mom snapped back that no matter how rich or educated I became, I'd always be the ugly one. That was the final straw. I screamed at her to get out of my house. When I tried to escort her to the door, she shoved me into my coffee table, breaking a vase my boyfriend had given me. Watching it shatter felt symbolic, like seeing my own self-worth crushed again. I completely broke down. I screamed, cried, and told her to leave before I called the police. My nephews heard everything and came out looking scared and confused. My heart broke for them. They didn't deserve any of this. I ordered food, let them watch movies, and tried to make the night calm. Later, when I called my sister again to confront her, she laughed coldly and repeated her threats, saying I was nothing without my job and she could ruin me whenever she wanted. I ended the call, sobbing. When I finally spoke to my boyfriend, I told him everything. He was supportive and logical, saying my sister's actions could legally qualify as child abandonment and blackmail. He advised me to get proof, record her repeating the threat. It made sense. I knew my sister's cruelty firsthand, so I followed his plan. Before calling her again, I made sure my nephews felt comfortable. I didn't want them to feel unwanted the way I always had. We spent the day playing games, eating pizza, and bonding. They were sweet, polite, and surprisingly thoughtful kids. Later, I took them to the mall because their clothes were small and worn out. I ended up buying them new outfits and, on impulse, 2 Nintendo Switches. When they hugged me and cried, I realized just how much love they were missing at home. That night, after they fell asleep, I made the recorded call. I stayed calm while my sister ranted. She repeated everything, claiming she'd tell my employer I was unstable and insisting nobody would believe me. Her voice was erratic and cruel. By the end of that call, I had everything I needed to prove who she really was. I hung up on my sister after she kept repeating that I didn't deserve anything in life, just over and over again. I tried to block her voice out and focused on checking that the entire call had been recorded. Thankfully, it had. I now had her on audio admitting she planned to make false medical accusations to my employer. It hit me then how smart my boyfriend had been to suggest recording the call. I began mentally preparing for what might happen if she actually went through with her threat. After that, I tried to calm myself down and put my nephews to bed. The next morning, before they even woke up, I called Child Protective Services as soon as their line opened. I explained everything, how my sister had abandoned her children, how we were estranged, and how she had left them with me under false pretenses, using manipulation to trap me into caring for them. To my surprise, the CPS agent I spoke with was genuinely helpful. I shared the recording, and after listening to it, the agent agreed it was clear my sister was using blackmail while neglecting her kids. They told me an investigation would be opened immediately, and my sister would be contacted soon. I was shaking after that call. I tried to decompress by spending the rest of the day with my nephews, relaxing and bonding. The next day, my mom called me. I don't even know why I picked up. I guess I was still feeling disoriented and vulnerable. We ended up having another huge argument. In the heat of it, I slipped up and told her I had contacted CPS, saying my sister would finally pay for what she'd done. My mom hung up the second I said that. Afterward, I just sat there trembling. Calling CPS had been stressful enough, but fighting with my mom and revealing that detail felt like a huge mistake. I didn't regret reporting my sister, but I knew my mom would do anything to protect her. She never cared about my nephew's safety, only about shielding my sister. At that point, it was clear to me that my mother despised me and adored my sister. I also knew exactly what would happen next. She'd call my sister immediately to warn her. I was sure my sister would know about my CPS report by the following day. That night, I couldn't sleep. The next morning, when I got to work, my receptionist told me my supervisor had scheduled a meeting before lunch. That meant it was serious. I was nervous, but not surprised. I had expected this. My sister was unpredictable, and she clearly wanted to destroy my career. In the meeting, both my supervisors and a higher-up I'd never met were there. They looked at me like I was under investigation. One of them explained that a trusted family source had contacted them, claiming I was unmedicated for a severe mental illness and prone to psychotic breaks. I immediately knew it was my sister. This was exactly what she threatened to do. Trying to sabotage my high-paying job would have been her ultimate victory. But what she didn't realize was that I'd come prepared. I calmly opened my briefcase and handed each supervisor a copy of my doctor's letter and detailed documentation from the past 5 years showing that I had never missed a single prescription refill. I had signed verification from my primary physician, my therapist, and my psychiatrist, confirming that my medication and moods had been completely stable. I then briefly explained the situation with my family, how my sister had her own mental health issues, and assured them the accusations were false. They took some time reviewing everything. As soon as they saw the medical documentation from multiple doctors, their tone changed completely. They apologized for the inconvenience and explained that they simply had to verify everything before closing the matter. One supervisor even congratulated me on my excellent quarterly results and complimented me in front of the higher-up. By the end, I left the meeting laughing to myself about how badly my sister's plan had failed. When I got to my car, I called her. I could barely stop laughing as I told her the meeting lasted only 15 minutes because my bosses realized how ridiculous her claims were. She was furious, calling me a liar and insisting I'd been fired. That only made me laugh harder. I told her she had failed again, just like always. I said the only things she was good at were lying and disappointing people, even her own children. That set her off completely. She screamed at me, calling me names and swearing she'd get revenge the moment she got back into the country. I was still laughing after I hung up, but when I got home to my nephews, the reality of the situation hit me. I realized this wasn't over. It was about to escalate. My sister had nothing to lose, and I started to fear for my safety. I lay awake that night thinking about my nephews. I'd grown so close to them and couldn't stand the thought of them going back to her. She was repeating the same toxic cycle our mother had. I hated her more than I'd ever hated anyone. Later, I checked on the boys as they slept. They looked so peaceful and innocent. It broke my heart. I sat in the hallway, quietly crying, realizing how unfair it all was. The next morning, everything went completely wrong. I woke up to violent pounding on my door, like someone was hitting it with a heavy bag. When I opened it, there she was, my sister, alongside a huge man, easily over 6 feet tall and 300 pounds. My mom stood behind them. Before I could say anything, the man shoved me hard onto the floor. My shoulder throbbed from the impact as my sister, my mother, and the stranger forced their way inside. I screamed at them to leave, yelling at the man not to touch me, but he didn't even understand English. He seemed to only speak Russian. That's when I realized what was happening. My sister had arrived early to get to my house before CPS, who had been scheduled to visit around 11 a.m. It was only 8. The commotion woke my nephews. They stumbled out of the guest room, frightened. I tried to protect them, but my sister ordered the man to take them to the car. Both boys started crying, begging her to let them stay with me. When I tried to pull my oldest nephew away, the man grabbed my head and slammed it into the wall. Everything went blurry. I could only watch helplessly as he carried the boys out. My mom didn't intervene. She followed them out silently. Before leaving, my sister leaned down, spit directly in my face, and walked out. It was one of the lowest moments of my life. They drove off in a black SUV I'd never seen before. My nephew's belongings, toys, and clothes were all left behind. I sat there sobbing and shaking. My chest hurt from panic. I couldn't believe how cruel my own family had become. When I finally caught my breath, I called the police. They were already aware of my sister's open CPS investigation and took my report seriously. I gave them every detail: the description of the man, the SUV, and even the full license plate number, which I somehow remembered. The officer was incredibly patient and helpful. I also mentioned that I suspected my sister had been using drugs. She looked completely manic and disconnected from reality. After the call, I tried to distract myself, but I couldn't. I couldn't eat or sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my nephews' faces. Hours later, the police called back. They had located the SUV. They'd approached it with 3 patrol cars, knowing the man was dangerous. He resisted arrest, attacked officers, and was shot in the leg after punching 2 and giving a female officer a black eye. My sister had also physically attacked one of the officers trying to cuff her. Hearing all that, I was speechless. It felt surreal, like something out of a show, not real life. Then, the officer said my sister wanted to use her one phone call to talk to me. I laughed in disbelief. When he admitted she was probably going to ask for bail money, I told him not to bother connecting the call. She could sit in jail for all I cared. Even with her behind bars, I still felt uneasy. CPS confirmed my nephews were safe, but I couldn't contact them directly. I only had a week left before my planned trip to Australia with my boyfriend. A trip I couldn't cancel without losing thousands of dollars and disrespecting his family. I was emotionally exhausted. I spent the week crying at random moments, missing the boys. My boyfriend was supportive, but I could barely focus on anything else. Eventually, I told myself I had to push through and not let my sister ruin everything. The trip to Australia turned out to be incredible. Seeing my boyfriend after months apart was healing. His family was warm and welcoming, and for the first time in a long while, I felt at peace. But when I returned home, reality came crashing back. A few days later, I went to the police station to press charges against my sister and mother for breaking into my home. I also learned that the CPS investigation was still ongoing. It frustrated me that they hadn't reached a conclusion yet. If they had simply spoken to my nephews, they'd know the truth. I couldn't stop thinking about how my sister had dragged them out barefoot that morning. My youngest nephew's favorite stuffed dog was still at my house. I'd been sleeping with it ever since. Some mornings, seeing it would make me cry. A month later, CPS finally made their decision. My sister officially lost custody of her children. They told me she'd have to go to court if she ever wanted them back. When I asked if family members could request custody, they said yes. That same day, I filed to become their guardian. Before that case even began, the criminal trial for the break-in started. Some people might think it's harsh to take your own sister to court, but I didn't care. If I ever wanted custody of my nephews, I had to do things the right way. Seeing my sister in court for the first time since that morning was surreal. The last time I'd seen her, she'd spit in my face. When the judge mentioned my custody petition, my sister, apparently unaware of it, snapped. She screamed my name and lunged across the courtroom at me like a wild animal. She clawed at my face and tore at my hair before the bailiff pulled her off. But before he could restrain her, she bit down hard on my arm. The bite got infected, and it was one of the most painful injuries I've ever had. But in that moment, I knew she had just destroyed any chance she had left. Over the next 2 years, her stacked charges kept her in and out of court until she was finally sentenced to life in prison. My mother only avoided jail time by testifying against her. Watching my mom finally betray her golden child was almost satisfying. I knew then that I was done with both of them for good. The custody case for my nephews dragged on longer, as their biological father's family tried to fight for them too. But I didn't care. I wasn't giving up. Eventually, after 2 long years, I won full custody. When my nephews came home, their smiles made everything worth it. I'd redecorated their rooms, and when my youngest saw his stuffed dog again, he ran into my arms crying. His older brother joined him, and they both hugged me tightly, whispering how much they'd missed me. My oldest looked up at me through his tears and said, "I knew it, Auntie. I knew you'd come back for us one day." And I promised them that from now on, they'd never have to wonder again.